The capital world of Zelthor was glowing under 3 suns. Grand towers rose into the sky, their crystal walls reflecting every beam of light. On this special day, the United Systems Summit was being held in the heart of the Elvari Empire. Leaders from all over the galaxy had come to hear Queen Aravira speak. She was not just a ruler, she was a symbol of unity. Inside the great hall, thousands of beings sat in silence. Screens floated in the air, showing the queen's face as she walked toward the central stage. Her steps were graceful, her gown of silver threads shining with each movement. Eyes glowed softly, and her long pale hair flowed behind her like a river of starlight. Her people admired her. Other species respected her, even humans. Once outsiders in the galaxy had been invited to send a small group to attend. Among the Queen's personal guards, one human stood out. His name was Ethan. He had short brown hair, a strong build, and calm eyes. Unlike the Elvari soldiers in golden armor, Ethan wore simple black gear with a small earth badge on his shoulder. He had been chosen not for his rank, but for his record brave. Loyal and calm under pressure. Most thought he was only there as a gesture of peace. As Queen Aravira reached the speaking platform, she paused. The crowd leaned forward, waiting for her to speak, but something was wrong. The Queen's hand shook slightly. Her smile faded. Her eyes lost focus, and then, without warning, she collapsed. Gasps filled the hall. Some screamed. Others rose from their seats in shock. Her guards rushed toward her, shouting in their language. But none moved faster than Ethan. He was already running by the time she hit the ground. He reached her side and knelt quickly. "Queen Aravira," said softly. Placing 2 fingers on her neck, her pulse was faint. Her skin was cold. The Elvari guards arrived and tried to push him away. But she stirred weakly and whispered something in their tongue. They froze, then allowed Ethan to lift her gently. He carried her out of the hall as the galaxy watched in. Silence through countless screens. Inside the royal medical chamber, machines scanned her body. Glowing symbols floated in the air, showing her heart rate, brain activity, and other vital signs. The Elvari doctors looked confused. They whispered to each other, tapping on holograms, running more tests. "We find no damage," one of them said in English. "Her body is stable, no disease, no poison." Ethan frowned. He had seen too many injured soldiers in his life to believe that. Her hands were shaking. Her breathing was shallow. "She didn't just faint, we are certain," another doctor said. "It is likely stress, exhaustion," but Ethan didn't agree. His instincts told him something else was wrong. He stepped back and watched the Queen's face. Her eyelids fluttered. Her jaw tightened as if she were in pain. Something unseen was attacking her, and the machines couldn't find it. While the doctors kept working, Ethan quietly accessed her food and drink logs using a small tablet. The Queen had eaten a normal breakfast. But when he looked at her last, drink something didn't make sense. It wasn't listed. The record showed a blank. "This isn't right," he muttered. He returned to the security room where the surveillance videos were stored. The guards at the door didn't want to let him in, but he showed his badge and said, "I need 5 minutes." For the Queen. Inside, he found a young Elvari technician and explained what he was looking for. "Can you show me the footage from this morning in the Queen's chamber?" Ethan asked. The technician nodded and pulled up the feed. They watched the Queen dressing, walking, talking to her staff. Everything looked normal. But when the time came where she was supposed to drink her morning tea, there was a cut. A jump in time. The footage skipped forward by 5 minutes. Ethan asked. The technician did. Same result. A 5-minute piece was missing. "Someone edited this," Ethan said. "Who has access to these feeds?" "Only her personal guards," the technician replied, now growing nervous. "And a few high-level officials?" "I need names," Ethan said firmly. But before they could say more, an alarm beeped. Back in the med bay, the Queen's condition had worsened. Her pulse had dropped lower. Her skin had turned slightly pale blue. The doctors were panicking now. One of them shouted that her body was beginning to shut down. Ethan ran back, heart pounding. He leaned close to her and whispered, "I'm going to find out what's happening. Just hold on." Outside the room, he noticed something else. The Queen's most trusted guard, Commander Velzan, was nowhere to be seen. He had been by her side every day for years. Now, during a crisis, he was missing. "Where's Velzan?" Ethan asked one of the guards. "He said he needed air," the guard replied. "Left an hour ago." Ethan's eyes narrowed. Something was very wrong. He stood still for a moment, thinking carefully. The Queen had collapsed right before announcing a major treaty. A piece of footage was missing. A drink was unrecorded. Personal guard was missing. And the doctors could not explain her condition. This was no accident. This was planned. Ethan looked around the room. No one else had figured it out yet. But he had. And he was going to find the truth even, if he had to go against the entire empire to do it. Ethan didn't sleep that night. The Elvari doctors stayed busy running scans that showed nothing new. He sat in a corner of the medical room watching Queen Arivera's slow breathing. She hadn't woken up. Her skin was cold, and sometimes her body shook lightly, like she was having a nightmare. Every time someone tried to say it was just stress, Ethan's hands clenched. He had seen stress before. Soldiers under fire, captains on the bridge. This wasn't that. This was something deeper, darker, something hidden. The next morning, he returned to the surveillance chamber. The same technician was there, still tired-eyed, but willing to help. "Did you find anything else?" Ethan asked. The technician hesitated, then nodded. "I checked more footage from last week. Small edits just like before, all around the Queen's private times, especially when food or drink was involved." Ethan felt a chill go down his spine. Someone had been messing with her meals for days, maybe. Longer. And each time, the edits were careful. Short, just enough to avoid being noticed by anyone not looking closely. "Did anyone access the footage logs recently?" Ethan asked. "Yes," the technician said. "Commander Velzan accessed them 5 times in the last 2 weeks." Ethan's eyes narrowed. Velzan wasn't just missing, he was hiding something. He moved quickly to the Queen's personal chambers, guarded now by 2 silent Elvari soldiers. They didn't like him being there, but he showed his badge again and reminded them, "I'm part of her personal guard. She trusted me." Inside, the room was quiet. Soft lights glowed from the ceiling. The air smelled like flowers and clean metal. He looked around carefully: desk, bed, clothes, makeup box, shelves with books and old gifts from other worlds. He focused on the throne-like chair in the corner. The Queen used it to meditate and sometimes take meals. He scanned every part of it, lifting the cushions, checking the legs. And then he saw a small scratch under the armrest. Not natural. He ran his fingers over it and the panel clicked open. Inside was a tiny injector device, hidden from plain sight. Ethan pulled it out carefully. It was cold and smelled faintly of chemicals. The nozzle was thin, likely used to spray. Into the air or into a drink, went unnoticed. He quickly sealed it in a clear evidence bag from his belt pouch. His heart was racing. This was no accident. This was poisoning, and whoever did this had access to the Queen's personal space. He returned to the medbay and showed the injector to the doctors. One of them took it, scanned it, and his face turned pale. "This device," the doctor whispered, "contains traces of a neurosuppressant, but it is not Elvari. It is not from any registered alien pharmacy." Ethan leaned in. "It? What origin? Does it show?" The doctor paused, then said the word that would change everything: human. The room went quiet. The other doctors stared at Ethan, their eyes cold and suspicious. The Queen's own guards stepped closer, their hands near their weapons. "You think I did this?" Ethan asked, standing up. "If I wanted to harm her, I wouldn't have carried her to safety. I'm the one who found this thing." But they didn't speak. They just stared. Ethan knew what was coming next. He slipped out before they could lock the doors, running through the silver hallways. He contacted the human mission office on Zelthor. An old general answered the line. "Ethan," the general said, "you're in trouble. The Elvari sent a report saying you brought a dangerous human device near their queen. I found the device, Ethan said quickly. It was hidden in her throne. It has a neurosuppressant, something not used in Alvari medicine. The general's face turned serious. Do you still have the sample? No, they took it. Then listen carefully, the general said, lowering his voice. What you found may be connected to Project C-19X. Ethan froze. That's a myth. It's real, the general replied. Long ago, during the first contact wars, Earth developed a chemical that could block telepathic and neural powers in alien minds. It was used once in a battlefield, where a whole alien fleet suddenly stopped moving. Their minds shut down. We lost control of the project. It was erased, banned. And now it's here, Ethan whispered. You need to be careful, the general said. Someone brought that old weapon back. If the queen was poisoned with it, it means someone wanted to shut her mind down without killing her. Keep moving. Don't trust anyone. The screen went dark. Ethan knew he couldn't go back to the medical wing or the guard station. He would be arrested, framed, or worse. But he wasn't going to give up. He found the technician again. I need you to copy all the edited footage to a secure drive. They'll know, the technician warned. I know, Ethan said. But the truth matters more. After securing the footage, Ethan hid the drive in a safe location behind a loose wall panel in a quiet storage room. Then he changed clothes, blending in with staff workers and walking calmly through the palace. His goal now was to find VEL single quotes. Zan, he asked around quietly, checking old patrol logs. One worker said she saw Velzan heading toward the outer towers. The day before, another mentioned he looked pale and nervous. Someone said he was acting strangely all week. Finally, a silent maintenance bot offered the final clue. Its path log showed it had passed by a restricted chamber in the lower towers and detected a faint heat signature behind the door. Ethan made his way there, slowly and carefully. When he reached the locked chamber, he pulled out a small tool and opened the door inside. The air smelled like oil and dust. Vel single quotes, Zan was there. He was slumped against the wall, his armor scratched and his eyes half open. He looked weak, like he had been poisoned too. Velzan? Ethan said, stepping closer. What happened? The alien guard looked up, barely able to speak. They made me. I didn't want. Queen, who made you? Ethan. Asked. Velzan tried to speak, but he passed out before he could say more. Ethan checked his pulse. Still alive, but just barely. Whatever had happened to the queen had reached him too. And now Ethan knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about a queen's health. It was about a secret someone was willing to kill to protect. Ethan dragged Commander Velzan out of the dusty chamber and into a quiet hallway. The alien guard was heavy, but Ethan used his full strength, keeping his footsteps silent. He didn't want any guards spotting them. If they did, they might think Ethan had hurt Velzan this time. No one would listen to his side. He found a small storage closet, opened it, and pulled the alien inside. Velzan was still unconscious, but his breathing was steady. Ethan looked around the room. Old blankets, tools, wires, cleaning bots. He wrapped one of the blankets around the alien guard and sat beside him, thinking hard. Someone had used a banned human chemical on the queen. And now maybe on her trusted guard too. The only question was why. What was the goal of this silent attack? Ethan's thoughts were broken when Velzan stirred. His eyes opened slowly, glowing dimly in the dark room. He looked weak, confused, but slowly focused on Ethan's face. You saved me, Velzan said softly. Yeah, Ethan replied, and I need you to tell me the truth now. No lies, no half answers. Velzan nodded weakly. I didn't want to do it, but I was ordered. Who ordered you? The alien struggled to speak. A voice from the council. It's not public, not official. They came to me in secret. They told me the Queen's new alliance would destroy balance. They said it would give too much power to humans. So they used. You to poison her? Ethan asked. No, Velzan said quickly. I didn't touch her food. I was only told to block evidence. Erase footage. Keep certain logs hidden. They said it was for the good of the Empire. Ethan felt anger burn in his chest. And you believed them? At first, Velzan said, but then I saw her getting weaker. Day by day, her mind not as sharp. Her words sometimes slow. I tried to pull away. Then they poisoned me too. Same gas. Small dose. Ethan stood up and paced the room. Do you know who actually gave her the poison? Velzan shook his head. No name. Just an operator. Cloaked. Always came when I was gone. Ethan now knew they were dealing with someone deep inside the Elvari High Council. Someone who wanted to stop the Queen from sharing power with Earth. Someone who was afraid of human influence growing in the galaxy. He leaned down. Can you walk? Not far, Velzan whispered. I'll get help, Ethan said, but only from someone we can trust. He left the closet quietly and returned to the technician who had helped him earlier. The young Elvari was surprised to see him again. I thought you were arrested, the technician said. Almost, Ethan replied. I need your help. I found Velzan. He's been poisoned too. He can confirm everything. We need to get him somewhere safe. The technician hesitated, then nodded. Follow me. They took a secret maintenance tunnel that led to an old supply wing beneath the palace. It hadn't been used in years and there were no cameras there. They set up a quiet spot for Velzan to rest. Ethan stayed near him. He couldn't let him die. Not now. Not when the truth was so close. Later that night, Ethan connected to a secure human line again. This time, a woman answered. Dark uniform with stars on her shoulders. You're the one watching C-19X reports, Ethan guessed. She nodded. Director Hallen, we monitor any possible use of banned human tech. And you, Ethan, just walked into the biggest one in decades. Then help me, Ethan said. I need proof. The injector is gone. The council won't believe my word alone. You need a chemical match, Hallen said. Find any remaining trace on skin in the air, even fabric. Send it to us. Run a scan. Ethan remembered the injector had left a small burn mark on the cushion under the Queen's throne. Maybe no one had noticed it. He returned to the throne room late at night. Sneaking in when the guards changed shifts, the cushion was still there. He lifted a hand, there it was, a faint melted spot just where the nozzle would have touched. He took a cloth from his kit, pressed it gently over the spot, and sealed it in a sample bag. The next morning, he handed it to the technician. Send this to the human embassy. Priority 1. What is it? The technician asked. The last proof we need. While the technician worked, Ethan returned to Velzan. We're getting close, Ethan said, but they'll try to silence us before we can speak. Nodded slowly. Then we must speak loud. 2 days later, a message came from Director Halen. The sample matched Project C-19X. The chemical used on the Queen had come from old human research, but modified. Someone had changed the formula slightly, maybe to avoid detection. It had a new marker, one that showed signs of Elvari biotech mixed in. This wasn't just stolen human tech, Hallen said. This was a joint project. Someone used both sides, science. Ethan now understood the terrible truth. This wasn't just fear of humans. This was a plan made by members of both species. Someone from Earth and someone from Elvari High Council had worked together. But for what? And why poison the Queen instead of removing her in other ways? Ethan paced the room again, thinking. The answer came slowly. They didn't want her dead, he said out loud. They wanted her mind broken, so she couldn't speak, couldn't lead. Just fade quietly. Velzan looked up, like she got sick. Exactly, Ethan said. No blame, no scandal, just a tired Queen stepping down, replaced by someone more agreeable, someone loyal to the plan, Velzan whispered. His heart pounded. They had found the truth. Now they had to reveal it before it was too late. Inside the hidden storage room beneath the palace, Ethan sat across from Velzan, both silent for a long moment. Now they knew the truth, but knowing wasn't enough. They needed to act before the Queen's condition became permanent.
I
Was running out? Do you know who the replacement is? Ethan finally asked. Vezin nodded slowly. Lord Sarath, second in command of the High Council. Loyal to the Empire, but not to the Queen's dream of unity. He was always against her alliance with humans. He wants to take her place, Ethan said. Yes. And if the Queen remains like this, unable to speak or rule, the Council will vote for Sareth to act in her place. Ethan stood up and paced the room. I need to expose him before that happens. How? Velzan asked. He's powerful, respected. Anything you say, they'll deny. Anything you show, they'll say it's fake. Ethan didn't answer. Right away, he knew Velzan was right. Even with the evidence, even with the sample proving human ovary chemical use, the Council might still protect one of their own, especially someone like Sarath. But Ethan had something Sarath didn't. He had the truth. And people willing to help spread it. He reached into his bag and pulled out the hidden drive with all the security footage the technician had given him. The final files before disappearing for safety. This drive, Ethan said, has the missing recordings, the edits, the pattern. It shows that someone inside the Queen's own protection detail was ordered to keep things hidden. They'll say you made it, Velzan warned. That's why we need a public reveal, something no one can ignore. That afternoon, Ethan snuck into the broadcast center hidden below the summit hall. It was used to send emergency messages to all worlds connected to the galactic network. Normally, it was locked behind several security codes, but Velzan still had access codes as part of the Queen's Guard. Inside, the room was full of screens and glowing panels. Ethan inserted the drive and linked it with a message prepared in both human and Elvari languages. It included the recovered footage, the chemical analysis report from Director Halen, and a personal message from Ethan himself. To the people of the galaxy, he recorded, I am human. I serve Queen Aravira as a protector. What you're about to see is not a story, it is the truth. Someone inside your highest council poisoned the Queen. Not with alien poison, not with a weapon of war, but with silence. Tried to erase her mind and replace her leadership with someone they could control. He paused, looking into the camera. This cannot stay hidden, because if they can do this to her, they can do it to anyone. He sent the message with a single press. Within minutes, it reached thousands of planets. The response was immediate. Screens across the Elvari Empire lit up with the message. The people gasped as they saw their queen collapse on stage again. Cried out when the footage showed missing time. They watched, frozen, as Ethan uncovered the injector and the secret logs. And when the name Sareth was spoken, silence filled entire cities. Panic struck the council chamber. Sareth shouted that it was all lies. He called the video human manipulation. But even his own allies began to whisper behind his back. They had seen too much. The truth was in their homes, their streets, their hearts. Soon protests filled the palace gates. Banners were raised with the Queen's symbol. Some of the guards turned away from the council and took positions to protect the medical bay where she rested. But Sareth wasn't done yet. He ordered the arrest of Ethan and Velzan, calling them traitors. He sent elite guards to search every hall and every tunnel. He wanted the drive destroyed, the technician found, all humans removed from the palace. But he had made one mistake. He had underestimated how many people still loved their queen. The technician came forward with a full confession, stating clearly that he had been ordered by Sareth's assistant to erase the files. He provided voice logs and documents. Other staff began to come forward, to servants, cooks, even a young advisor. All had seen or heard strange things, but had been too afraid to speak now. They were speaking, and the people listened. Ethan and Velzan stayed hidden for 2 more days, waiting as the truth spread across the stars. Then, one morning, a group of guards loyal to the Queen arrived and knelt before them. You are summoned, their leader said, by the people and by the Queen herself. The Queen? Ethan asked, surprised. She's awake, the guard said, smiling. She asked for you. When Ethan entered the royal medical chamber, he felt a lump in his throat. Queen Aravira was sitting upright, her face pale but calm, her eyes those glowing. Gentle eyes met his with quiet strength. You. Kept your promise, she whispered. Ethan stepped closer. I told you I'd find out what happened. She reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were still weak, but warm. They tried to take my voice, she said, but you gave it back. The next day, the Queen appeared in public again, this time on her own 2 feet. The galaxy watched in awe. She stood before the council, surrounded by new guards, spoke clearly for all to hear. A shadow grew inside our house, she said, but light has returned, not by force, not by war, but by courage, by truth. Then she turned to Cirith. You are stripped of title and honor. You betrayed this empire. You tried to steal what was not yours. Cirith tried to argue, but his words were drowned out by the crowd. He was taken away in silence. Later, when the stars had dimmed and peace had returned, the Queen called Ethan to her side once more. You were never just a guard, she said. Ethan smiled. I was just doing my job. She looked at him for a long time. From now on, your job will be much more important. After the public return of Queen Aravira, the palace halls slowly began to calm. The angry crowds that had filled the gates turned into lines of people, bringing flowers, messages, and small gifts. They didn't just want a leader, they wanted her. She had returned, and they needed to see her face to believe it. Inside the palace, however, the work had just begun. Queen Aravira met with her most trusted advisors. She listened to every report. Those who had remained silent during the attack were questioned. Those who had helped spread the truth were honored. And in the middle of it all stood Ethan, the human guard who had uncovered the secret that nearly broke an empire. He had expected to be sent home, now that the Queen was safe. But instead, he was invited to a private meeting with her and a small group of new guards. Velzan, still recovering but stronger now, sat beside her. You know more about what happened than anyone, the Queen said. You didn't just see the damage, you saw the plan behind it. Ethan nodded. I saw how careful it was, how slowly they did it. They didn't want a war. They wanted control. And now we must find out how far that control reached, she said softly. She handed Ethan a small sealed folder. Inside were names, reports, and hidden communications. This is what we found in Siroth's chambers, she explained. Some of it is coded, some of it is in languages we haven't used. In 100 years, but one name appeared more than any other. Ethan read it. Commander Halleck of the Outer Ring Fleet. Yes, she said. He once served during the Human-Olveri conflict, disappeared after the peace treaty, and now we think he's back. So this wasn't just about the palace, Ethan. Said this plan started long ago. The Queen nodded. We believe Cirith and Halleck were in contact. If that's true, we're facing something far bigger than one poisoned throne. Ethan looked through the reports again. There were signs of quiet ship movements near the edge of Elvari space, strange messages sent from old human satellites that had gone silent for years, missing research notes from the project, C-19 X-Files. They're trying to bring the project back, Ethan whispered. Vizen leaned forward. But not just to harm leaders. What if they're building a weapon that can shut down entire species? Before, the Queen added, but stronger, more targeted, visible. Ethan felt a chill in his chest. If they finish it, they won't just use it to win power, they'll use it to erase resistance. The Queen stood slowly. That's why I need you, Ethan. It's not just as a guard, not just as a human, but as someone who has already walked through danger and didn't stop. What do you want me to do? He asked. I want you to go to the Outer Ring, she said. Find Halleck. Find the lab. And if what we fear is true, stop it. Ethan nodded. I'll need a team. Take who you trust, she said. No one else. 3 days later, a small stealth ship left Zelthor. It had no markings, no signal, and no official records. On board was Ethan Velzan and 3 others, a sharp Elvari pilot named Thessa, a quiet human tech expert named Leo, and a brave young diplomat named Kara, who spoke over 20 alien languages. As they crossed into deep space, Ethan read every file again. Halleck's last known location was a station near a dead moon. No trade routes went there. No official ships were allowed. It was the perfect place to hide something dangerous. Why would someone want to bring back a weapon like that? Kara asked one night. Fear, Ethan answered. Some people fear change, peace, shared power. They think silence is better than negotiation. But silence hurts everyone, she said. Not if you control the silence, Ethan replied. After a week in deep space, their ship picked up a faint signal. It's old, Thessa said, scanning it. Military code, human pattern, but mixed with Elvari timing. Leo checked his screen. This is a message loop. Keeps repeating. It's probably meant to call certain ships into a safe landing corridor. So there's a station, Ethan said. They're waiting for someone. He tapped the table. But we won't land like they expect. They approached the moon quietly, using the dark side for cover. Through the ship's window, they saw a long, narrow station with black panels hidden beneath layers of space dust. It looked like an old mining post, but Leo's scan showed deep energy readings. They're running something big inside, he said. We go in quiet, Ethan said. Get proof. Find Halleck. Shut it down. They suited up and used a silent pod to slip onto the station's lower docking area. No alarms, no patrols. Too quiet inside, the station felt cold. The halls were dark, the lights flickered. The walls had no markings. It looked like no one had lived there for years, but the power told a different story. They moved carefully, room by room, searching for the core lab. Then they found a locked door with heat signatures behind it. Leo worked fast. This door is tied to a voice lock. Ethan stepped forward and played an old recording of Halleck's voice taken from Siroth's files. The door clicked open. Inside was a lab filled with glowing tanks, machines, and screens showing alien brain scans. In the corner, a tall figure turned slowly. It was Halleck. He looked older, but strong, his eyes sharp. I wondered when you'd come, he said. Ethan raised. His weapon? It's over. The Queen knows everything. Halleck smiled. Does she? Or does she only know what you let her see? Then he stepped aside and revealed something even worse. A chamber behind him, filled with captured alien subjects. Quiet, frozen, eyes open but empty. This, Halleck said, is the future of peace. Ethan stared in horror. Yes. This is not peace. Halleck's smile faded. It's the only way to win. But Ethan knew what had to be done. They had to end it before this future erased the galaxy. Ethan kept his weapon steady as he looked at Halleck. Behind the old commander, the chamber of frozen subjects remained still. Their bodies stood straight, eyes wide open, but they didn't blink, move, or speak. They were trapped inside their own minds. This is not peace, Ethan said again, louder this time. Halleck turned, slowly walking between the frozen figures. Do you know what war feels like, Ethan? I've lived through it. I've watched leaders talk about unity while soldiers died on both sides. They promised peace, but peace never lasts. Fear always comes back. Betrayal always returns. So your answer is control? Ethan asked. Remove free thought from the galaxy. Halleck faced him. Silence the minds that can turn against us. It's the only way to stop future war. Elzan stepped beside Ethan. His voice was cold. You used the Queen. You poisoned her slowly, just to keep her from speaking peace. Halleck shrugged. She was too kind, too trusting. She believed humans and Elvari could rule together. But not everyone wants that future. Some of us remember the past. Kara, the young diplomat, stepped forward. These people you froze, who are they? Halleck smiled slightly. Leaders, thinkers, rebels. A few were only voices online. Of them spoke against the new system. They wanted change too quickly. You made them disappear, Leo said angrily. I gave them silence, Halleck answered. Ethan's heart burned with anger. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. They had to act now. He gave Leo a small nod. The tech expert opened his wrist console and sent a hidden signal back to their stealth ship. It activated a secure channel and began recording everything inside the lab. audio, video, data, all of it streamed directly to the Queen's emergency line. Halleck noticed the movement too late. "What did you do?" he asked. "The whole galaxy is watching," Ethan replied. "They're going to see what you've done." Halleck's face changed. The comm disappeared. "Then none of you will leave this place alive." He pressed a button on the control pad. Beside him, the chamber lights turned red. Alarms rang out. Walls began to close in. Defense turrets dropped from the ceiling, aiming at the team. Ethan shouted, "Cover!" The team ducked and moved behind the large lab machines. Thesa, the pilot, fired first, hitting one turret before it could shoot. Sparks filled the room. Leo pulled out a device and started hacking the turret system. "Buy me a minute." Velzin rolled across the floor and knocked another turret off its arm. Kira shielded the tech with a panel while Ethan pushed forward toward Halleck. Halleck pulled out a small blaster. "You're too late." Ethan didn't speak. He charged. He dodged the blast, grabbed Halleck's arm, and slammed him against the wall. The old commander fought back, strong for his age, but Ethan didn't stop. They struggled, fists clashing, weapons falling. Finally, Ethan landed a clean punch. Halleck collapsed. Leo shouted, "Systems down." The turrets powered off. Alarms stopped. Silence returned. The team stood in the middle of the lab, breathing heavily. Halleck was unconscious. Room smelled like burned wires and chemical mist. Ethan looked at the frozen subjects. "Can we wake them?" Leo walked over to the control panel. "Can try." The systems used a slow-frequency brain lock. With a reversal pulse, we might bring them back. "Do it," Ethan said. Leo worked quickly. The machines whirred. Then, a low hum echoed through the room. One by one, the eyes of the frozen victims blinked. Their bodies swayed. Some fell to their knees, gasping for breath. Others looked around in fear. Kara stepped forward, her voice calm and kind. "You're safe. We're here to help," they cried. Some shouted. Others just held their heads, trying to understand what had happened, but they were alive, free again. "We need to take them home," Velzon said, "and take Halleck to justice," Ethan added. Days later, Queen Aravira stood once more before the United Systems. This time, not in a hall, but through a galaxy-wide broadcast. She wore her royal silver gown. Beside her stood her new allies, Ethan, Valzan, Thesa, Leo, and Kara. Behind them were the freed victims of Halleck's lab. "My people," the Queen said, her voice strong. I was nearly silenced. My mind poisoned, my truth hidden, not by enemies of war, but by those who feared peace. She paused, letting her words settle across stars. But light returns when brave hearts refuse to be quiet. Light. She stepped aside and motioned to Ethan. He stepped forward, unsure at first, but the Queen gave a small nod. "I'm not a hero," Ethan said. "I'm just a man who saw something wrong and didn't look away." The crowd cheered across the worlds. Queen Aravira smiled. "Today we begin again, not with force, not with fear, but with voices united, with humans and Elvari standing." Together, weeks passed. Halleck was placed on trial. The evidence was undeniable. He was stripped of all titles and power. Station was dismantled. Victims returned to their homes. And Ethan. He was offered medals, honors, and high ranks. But he chose something different. He returned to the Queen, bowed respectfully, and said, "I'd like to stay on as your guard." "If that's still allowed," the Queen laughed softly.
"You're more than a guard now, Ethan. You're a symbol of what we can become."
And so he stayed not as a soldier under orders, but as a friend who had once uncovered a hidden truth and saved a galaxy from quiet destruction. Under the stars, peace had returned. This time it had a voice, and that voice was heard by all.